There's 8,000 new homes in Royal Arsenal, just in this part of Woolwich alone. So they've been created over the last 20 years, but it's really accelerated. So I think the important thing from an infrastructure point of view is when you've got that connectivity, when you've got that accessibility into a site, then the numbers can accelerate then, and we've seen far more development. So it's been early phases and vanguard phases in the first part of Royal Arsenal, but for the last 10 years since the infrastructure really started going in, then we've seen that acceleration of new housing development, and that continues despite a difficult backdrop for London, for the country, for South London. We're starting to see other developments emerge as well in terms of Royal Arsenal, so building out the sites that are the remainder really. So the challenge then is what next, because we've largely done what is the waterfront development site here.
Hello, I'm Toby Fox from 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Lovell Partnerships. And I'm visiting a different council every month to find out from them what works and what needs to change to get more homes built. And this month, I'm in the Royal Borough of Greenwich. And I'm going to meet Alan Evans, who's the Director of Place and Growth, to find out about the council's role as a placemaker and some of the challenges it has in delivering new homes here.
So my name's Alan Evans. I'm the Interim Director of Place and Growth at Royal Borough of Greenwich. So my responsibilities, so I've got development, I've got the economic development side of things, but really, I suppose most importantly for this conversation is how all of that combines with planning as well. So responsibilities for quite a few things at the council.
And all of that comes together in this place.
Absolutely. So we're here in Royal Arsenal. So a great example for me, who's worked across the country in a few places in the last couple of years. But this is an amazing example of placemaking for me. So where you've got new homes, but actually there's a lot of thought gone into creating value, but not just sort of property value, but value for the community. We're in Woolwich Works here, so you've got a community facility very much open for people who live and work in the area to come into here, coffee, social amenity, but they can work here as well as if they are a resident. So there's lots of things being curated here and brought together, mainly by Barclays, who have done a very good job as the developer, but facilitated a lot by council and other partners as well.
And this is the result of infrastructure investment, isn't it? This is what happens if you put infrastructure in place.
Yeah, absolutely. And so a large part of what I do at the council is looking at what are the infrastructure needs. So we're just going to consultation on our Regulation 18 stage, a bit technical, of our local plan, which sets out the land use for the borough for the next 15 years. So the future, the vision, the blueprint, if you like, is captured within that plan from a land use point of view. So that sets a bit of a vision for next 15 years, looks at the infrastructure requirements where we want to see growth, and then brings that back to what we need to deliver in what places and the subsequent stages of how we do that really. So here is a good example of, started 20 years ago, the infrastructure was put in, and then
that being the railway station.
Yeah, well, that came later. So I think probably a good way of saying there was lots of good things happening here, but when the Elizabeth line hit, that really catalysed, that really opened up the place for additional investment and the housing growth that you see here now in 2025.
And can you tell us a bit about that growth? What are the numbers?
So there's 8,000 new homes in Royal Arsenal, just in this part of Woolwich alone. So they've been created over the last 20 years, but it's really accelerated. So I think the important thing from an infrastructure point of view is when you've got that connectivity, when you've got that accessibility into a site, then the numbers can accelerate then, and we've seen far more development. So it's been early phases and vanguard phases in the first part of Royal Arsenal, but for the last 10 years since the infrastructure really started going in, then we've seen that acceleration of new housing development, and that continues despite a difficult backdrop for London, for the country, for South London. We're starting to see other developments emerge as well in terms of Royal Arsenal, so building out the sites that are the remainder really. So the challenge then is what next, because we've largely done what is the waterfront development site here.
But so we were talking about Charlton Riverside, and this is a great case study for what Charlton Riverside could be, right?
Oh, absolutely. So you see at Charlton Riverside, sort of the blank canvas from a point of view. So if you come here sort of 20, 25 years ago, again, you would have seen a completely different place. So a lot of the heritage assets would have been here, but it was very much underutilised. Now you see a very bustling, very vibrant place, which is what we want to see as part of that placemaking approach. So the homes are really important, but it's the place that comes with it, really. The public realm, the sense of ownership, all of that amenity that I talked about. Thames pathway, so just having access to that and having that unencumbered access. And I see when I walk to work in the morning, I see lots of people cycling, lots of people running along there, lots of people just ambling along there. I don't know what I do really. I sort of take in the river, take in the airport over the river, over the other side of a river. So it's just a wonderful amenity to have alongside a place, a community.
And so you've not just got the Arsenal here and Charlton Riverside, but of course you've got Thamesmead as well. And on the subject of new towns, I was at an event last night where Sir Michael Lyons was speaking from the New Towns Task Force. And one of the things he said was that in creating these new towns, that they have to be places that have a purpose. We have to have a reason, people have to have a reason to want to live somewhere. So what sort of lessons are you taking out of what the task force's work and also the places you've already created that could go into the creation of a new town in Thamesmead?
I think interestingly, when the task force was set up and Sir Michael Lyons was appointed, what really resonated, and because I'm an interim appointment to Greenwich Council, so I stepped in to help them for a certain period of time. I was arrived for 6 months, and I've been here 12 months, so it gives you a sense of I'm really, really enjoying the role. But you've got the sense of the task force has looked at where infrastructure leads the development rather than housing. It's not housing numbers. It's very much an approach where they've looked at and they've assessed places in their discovery phase and then launched their report about which places have the potential to grow those housing numbers, but what infrastructure needs to go in. How do we lead from an infrastructure point of view to create that housing growth?
And in terms of what you do then to kind of create a sense of place around that, what are the secret ingredients that you need to sprinkle into a place to make it as clearly a destination as this, a place where people want to come, want to be? Yeah,
and I've worked most of my career up in the northwest, so a large regeneration scheme there, sort of overlooking Liverpool, sort of empty docklands. So I know what it takes to sort of put the components in place, and also worked for a 18-month period at Homes England, the government's regeneration agency, looking at place and leading a national place commission, which was looking at exactly what you said and what's needed. But I think from a new town point of view, having that infrastructure, but also just curating it, driving that value, but not just the development value. Although we know a lot in the housing development industry about development appraisals and what's needed in order to unlock it. What's the end values, what's the construction costs, and how all of that meet in the middle. But a place really has an overall value, and it's about who wants to live there. Why do people want to live there? Creating the conditions for people wanting to live there. And I think from a new town point of view in Thamesmead, what we're pushing as a council is how do we work with Peabody and other key partners? How do we drive that? So transport infrastructure is key. So getting people there in the first place, that's absolutely a must. I think we can deliver some new homes. If it was a transport light touch, then maybe we can multiply that number of homes. But I think if there was a large piece of infrastructure there that really opened it up, such as the DLR extension, which has been talked about now for a long time, that would create the opportunity really to create or to drive the 15,000 homes that the place has the potential. But alongside that is just all of the organic stuff that you see here as well. So the likes of your Woolwich Works, the likes of your community spaces, the likes of your public realm, that's really important, making people feel like they want to live in a place, they belong to a place, and creating those touch points I think is really important. So for me, value is not just the development appraisal and what the developer can drive, but it's about what comes out of that place for the residents as well.
So you said a bit about the timeline, didn't you? When did we start here? When did this project start?
So this goes back to early 2000s in terms of the ownership changing and then looking at ideas and very much planning discussions, looking at the ground conditions, all those early phase development activities. So that was 20 odd years ago. And then I think the first development, the first sort of breaking ground for the new homes was around about 2005-06.
Okay, so it took 5 or 6 years to get to that stage, but then here we are 20 years later. What comes next?
So for us, we've got wonderful amenities here. So I've talked a bit about Woolwich Works, but we've got Punch Drunk just over the way, a real cultural destination that we really do value in Woolwich, in Greenwich. But then we've also got the other amenities. So you've got lots of things which the owner of a site, so Barclays, the developer, has really tried to bring in and curated other uses. So we've got a boulangerie, bakery, which is really important for the breakfast time, and then throughout the day you've got other places to eat and drink, and then you've got some of your more stable names, if you like, your M&S brand. You've got your Gales. So you've got things that start to give that anchor, where people can buy their groceries and their normal points, but also where people can eat and just enjoy the space as well.
It's the sort of granular details that give people a sense that they could live here.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, for me, down to the public realm, that we've really tried to replicate this over the road as well within Woolwich Town Centre. There's a road that runs through Woolwich that is a barrier, and we're trying to get the housing growth that's happened here, the new people, and those people interacting and using the space over the road as well. So for that, we managed very successfully as a council to draw down Future High Streets Fund. So some government funding at the time, where we replaced all the public realm along Power Street, which is our main high street in Woolwich. And also there's been a massive investment in Beresford Square as well. So public realm has really changed, the amenity, how we get people interacting has really changed. So again, we've tried to change the look and feel in keeping with the place principles which Barclays have led the way on really within the Royal Arsenal estate.
So what are the other elements of placemaking?
I think from a council point of view, there's lots of things. So our traditional services as well, and rethinking that. So into Woolwich Town Centre, we've just invested into a new leisure centre. And it's not just your traditional leisure centre in the sense of it lands and it provides swim facilities and five-a-side facilities, but it's got to be part of that community. So as well as everything else we've done in Woolwich Town Centre, the investment is to try and draw people into that town centre element, and then participate in other things as well. So benefit from the public realm, benefit from new square space, but actually then use the facilities that are coming forward as part of the new leisure centre. So we've taken it from the waterfront and put it smack bang in the middle of the town centre, trying to get that footfall, trying to revive from a town centre point of view.
All about driving footfall.
Absolutely. And then hopefully we will see the benefit of the public realm and the additional investments, the new square opening. We'll see that in terms of new retailers come into the town centre. So it's one to watch, I think, Power Street and around there. We'd really dearly love to announce some new retailers come in. We're working with British Land on that, so it's the council aren't the owner of the shopping centre, but we are working closely on town centre management issues, and hopefully we will see the benefit of that in terms of new tenants along Power Street.
What differences, what similarities do you find in regeneration and development in delivering new homes here compared to other places of the country?
So really interesting you asked that, because in the north you've got a real viability issue. So construction costs far outweigh the sales values or the rental values, and therefore you've got a gap, and the public sector tries to close that. In London you've got that, but inverse. So you've got what is a really overreaching housing market from a values point of view. So everyone's being priced out, if you like, because the demand is just there for the number of new homes. And what we're doing as the public sector is drawing that back, making that affordable, making sure the developments come forward with the right amount of affordable homes for Londoners to actually get onto the housing market or move into that rental space. So there's a different challenge here from what you've got in the north. But I think when you've got councils trying to facilitate that, it's the same principles. It's councils trying to be innovative. It is a very difficult backdrop for councils at the moment with the budget situation. Most councils are taking money out of the budget to try and live within their means. Some local authorities have got into some difficulties there. What is really important though is the councils have those skills to be able to drive place. So not just planning, people gravitate towards planning. Planning is needed, capacity in a planning sense is needed to facilitate planning applications, giving the right advice to developers, building that confidence to try and get investor developer confidence into a place. But you've also got to, if the councils are going to involve themselves in any way, either by direct development, facilitating development, passing through grants, then they've got to have the right commercial skills, for example. So in the legal team, it's great to have time-served legal colleagues that have been around for a long time, time, but are they used to doing lease wraps? Are they used to doing sort of commercial deals? And that's the type of skills that councils have to equip themselves with. Equally in the financial space, really understanding development values and what happens moving forward to not only facilitate and move things on, but understand the risk for local authorities. So we're not seeing authorities get into a space where they don't want to be in 2, 3, 5, 10 years' time. So it's just building that capacity to be able to facilitate. So it's one component of part of what a local authority does. But for me, obviously, coming from the area I do in the local authority, from a planning and development point of view, it's probably one of the most important parts looking into the future. All the other services are reactionary. They sort of respond to the issues and the needs of the communities on a day-to-day basis. Within the planning and development side of things, you've got to look into the future and then come back and start to put the building blocks in place, but make sure you've got that skill set, that capacity in order to facilitate it and drive it forward. And, you know, an example of Royal Arsenal where we are today just shows that what a local authority can do when it looks innovatively and works constructively and in partnership with a developer or an investor.
Well, best of luck in replicating that example, Alan Evans. Thank you very much indeed for your part in getting 1.5 million new homes built. So that's it for another episode of 1.5 million new homes, the local government challenge, sponsored by Redloft and by Lovell Partnerships. But we are going to be back in just a few days with more from Greenwich. So if you click subscribe, you won't miss any of that. Click like and you'll make us happy. Thanks very much. We'll see you next time.